Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Nobody Asked Me Guy show. Listen, guys, you're going to have a great time this evening. We have a wonderful guest in the person of Charisa Munroe. Now, I'm sure all of you, most of you, maybe I should say, if not all of you, are familiar with Charisa or with the works that she's done, or that name Munroe may be resonating in your head, bouncing around. Charisa is the daughter of Doctors Ruth and Myles Munroe. And as we know, as I said to Charisa on another occasion, is that my first experience of really getting into listening heavily was when Dr. Munroe was talking about purpose. So Charisa herself talks about that, and she shares with us. Now, she's a native of Nassau, Bahamas, and she calls it the place where God lives. And we certainly can appreciate that. She studied under the tutelage of her parents, Dr. Myles and Ruth Munroe. Now, Charisa currently serves as the president of the Myles and Ruth Munroe Foundation and vice president of Munroe Global Incorporated, both of which prepare her to add fuel to the fire she is sparking in the hearts and souls of many. She is president and CEO of Charisa Munroe, LLC, a personal brand company that serves to empower lives and help others to define, develop, and deploy their purposes for greatness. She counts it a great honor to lead others reaching the meritorious level of their lives. Charisa is a new up-and-coming author with a new release. It's a 31-day devotional, and it is titled Empowerment for Everyday Living. And we certainly can use that. We all can use empowerment. So without further ado, I do want to share with you a little bit more about Charisa, and it's going to be in her hands. Charisa is an influential and motivational speaker who is activating action in individuals and organizations across the world, sharing the foundational messages of purpose and hope that was instilled in her by her legendary parents, Doctors Myles and Ruth Munroe. So without further ado, guys, we share with you Ms. Charisa Munroe. Charisa, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It is such a pleasure. I take it an honor to be asked to be a guest on your show. I never take these lightly. It is always God's plan to just give the opportunity and a platform for me to share my story, but also kind of share whatever it is you would have on my heart to help someone else and just offer hope to those that may be feeling down, especially having gone through what I've gone through. Anyway, whether I'm standing on a stage in front of 5,000 or I'm sitting at a chair at home, just on a podcast, or just from home, just being able to express myself. I just hope that I will touch one life at any given time. So thank you, Mr. Lars, for having me. Last time I saw you, I think was October of 2015 or
16.
2016, yes. We were both at Deaver's event, and it was such an amazing event. Yes. I do remember that. I think we even have a photo together somewhere. So
we do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And listen, let me go backwards and offer my deepest condolences to you, Charisa, and to Myles Jr., and to the immediate Munroe family, as well as the Munroe friends and family, and we know that we all love Dr. Myles Munroe and Dr. Ruth, and we know, unfortunately, as Charisa mentioned, the tragedy that occurred. However, we know that his life is manifested and lives on through Myles Jr. and through you, Charisa, and through all of those that were students. I'll call them students, if I may, respectfully, that were students under his tutelage and that respect him so highly. So again, we just want to offer heartfelt condolences and incessant prayers to the immediate Munroe family, and to all of those of you that love and cherish Dr. Munroe as much as we do. Now, Charisa, let's jump right into the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying thank you so much. I don't think my brother and I can ever hear that enough, and it's always touches straight to the heart, because we know there are a lot of other people that were also affected. So thank you very much.
Well, you're more than welcome. So guys, you've heard me talk enough, and we want Charisa to share with us. So you were here to hear her, not hear me. And as always, we always share with you. If you have any questions, please put them in the box to your left. And if you'd like to come on and FaceTime with Charisa, just let us know and grab one of those boxes, and you can talk to Charisa personally. But right now, we're going to ask Charisa if she will just kind of share with us, so her passion about social work. We know that she has a master's degree in that area, and she does a lot of things, and we've already talked about empowerment and promise. So, Ms. Charisa.
Thank you. Yes, social work is definitely the term that's been given to the passion that I've been birthed with, if I can put it that way. And I think that started from way back when, my love and desire to help those in need. And it was just a matter of figuring out how to coin that so that I can figure out which path to take as far as going to school and so forth and so on. So yes, I got my bachelor's and my master's in social work with a particular track in medical, in health. And it's because I just loved medicine. I've always loved medicine. When I was, during high school, during the summers, during college, during the summers, I would come home and I would work in the ER at one of the hospitals in the Bahamas. And so there was always that. I loved, for some reason, I just loved, I didn't mind seeing blood, but I loved just helping people who needed some kind of assistance. And I don't care what kind of assistance I was just loved being there with the medical team and the doctors. And then when I went off to school, now they want to know, how do you bottle this up? And so I realized that I just love helping people. And of course, you go through college and you go through the different courses and you realize, okay, so this is probably the track that allows me to do what I like to do the most. So still be able to do medicine, but still be able to serve people and serve the community, which is the foundation of my passion. And so I went ahead and got social work, and I've been a social worker for the last going on 13 years, believe it or not.
Well, you talk about working in the medical field, and
yes, so I'm able to work. I have the best of both worlds. I'm able to do social work and do it for a great population of people that really touch my heart, and that's those that are aching mentally, physically, and emotionally. And so my work allows me to do all of that. And I enjoy what I do. I've been doing it for about 15 years, and it's amazing. And I think it's been holding me so tightly, so I haven't been able to get away from it and kind of move in the direction that I know I need to get into, where I have a little more freedom. But I think, everything's going to happen with time. And then, of course, my master's in business administration came about when I started working with my dad. And I made that decision to go part-time at ministry with him. And I realized very quickly that I was going to be sitting around round tables and board meetings. And, it was going to be more than just being his daughter. Now I was going to be a part of his promotional team and his PR team and the business team. And so I realized that, okay, so right there I had a weakness. And once you realize it, what are you going to do with it? And so my desire at that point was to now go ahead and get a master's in business administration so I could, further educate myself and further inform myself. So when I sit down, I can actually make informed input into what was being said. So that's how that came about. And so here I am today, pretty much doing what I do still. Of course, since everything has happened, my life has shifted a little bit. And God has taken me into places that I had no idea. I had no idea what road I would be on this particular road or this journey, but here I am. And it's almost as though he's given me a broader platform to use my social work skills and ability, and just, again, my passion, serving people, serving the community, serving the nation, and of course, serving the world through, again, I continue to empower, educate, make people aware, and that one-on-one communication that you want to have with people, just so that they can feel and touch you and be able to see that, man, she really is a real person who are teaching real principles, and she's also living it as well.
Yes, excellent. Listen, excellent segue into our next question. As we talk about millennials, and I was alluding to that while you were making your return, is that there's so many questions today, especially a young, and I don't like labeling people, but since the world has decided to label them millennials, there's so many questions about faith and believing and not believing. Can you touch on that a little bit as far as some of our younger listeners that fall into that millennial category?
Well, I think there's so much out there now. Not that there wasn't any more distractions in former generations, but we have even more distractions now. And the way that you worded the question to me was, are the millennials now of the world depending less on faith and more on their own volitions. And I think what's beginning to happen is people are really depending more on self-made systems. And I see that as social work because there are so many resources and systems that we're supposed to use to serve people. And of course, my social work from a professional standpoint limits me to what I can say and what I can use and so forth and so on. Whereas, and all of these systems are man-made. Every last one of them have been man-made, and they've been created since 30, 50, 100 years ago, and people are still using them now. And so there's more faith in that and less faith on the kingdom principles and the biblical principles that we can be using to attack some of these emotional problems and physical problems and mental problems that people are having.
As soon as you can return, just grab this spot, you'll be returning. But for those of you that's just tuning in, what we're discussing right now is the millennials. And the question that Charisa is addressing is, there's so much talk about millennials and generations. This is a generation this and a generation that. And I was asking her, and she's expounding on that, does she see a major difference in the world of social work that may suggest that millennials depend less on faith and more on their own volitions? And that's what she's touching upon right now, and she will be returning. We don't know why we're having, well, we do know why. That's the way Satan does when you're talking about him. When we talk about any topics, things generally go extremely smoothly. So as to Charisa's returning, if some of you have questions specifically to ask her addressing this particular topic or any of them, please feel free to join us. Grab one of those spots and join us. So we want to hear from you as well. You can also put your questions in the box to the left, and we will answer those questions. And we're going to be talking to Charisa about a multiplicity of things concerning just the world at large when it comes to Christianity, when it comes to having faith, when it comes to, she uses the word quite often, empowerment, when it comes to empowering people. And so she talks a lot about her social studies degree and how it works for her, and about the business acumen of becoming a part of the Myles Munroe dynasty. Great, glad to have you back, Brother Kente. Yeah. And again, but I was just sharing with our group that Charisa was addressing the millennials, and the question was, did we think that they depend less on faith and more on their own volitions? And she was sharing with us that she feels very strongly that they are going more with their volition as to the Christian faith. And when you left, we were talking about, or you were talking about, we were talking about the millennials and about whether they were going on their own volition, or if they were depending on present faith. Please continue.
Yes, and so my thought was, they have moved away from the church and what that stands for, and everybody is trying to figure out their own higher power, and just focusing on a lot of man-made. So in social work, I see it a lot. I see to where if I'm given the opportunity, a little open window to want to speak word and want to speak about God, well, they want something right now. They want to be fixed right now. They want something quick, and so usually most man-made resources are quick. The problem with those resources are, and I've learned this in social work over the years, they're limited. And so they run out, especially when you're working with a government and they have this government shutdown for so long. So no, you're not going to get food stamps for a couple of months. You're not going to get your Social Security benefits a couple of months. And they live off of that. They live off of these resources. And so God forbid I teach them about budgeting or saving up for a rainy day, because you're going to have moments like you never know what's going to happen. And so there is this thing of, I understand God and I believe in God. Actually, a lot of them actually have a relationship with God that they grew up in hearing and learning, but they don't believe that, man, I'm sick now, so couldn't have been him, so now I need some help. And again, they always want something quick. And especially the millennials now that we've moved in this era where it's that microwave era, where now technology is advancing, and so everything is quick. anything that's going to take time, even with success. My parents grew up in an era where your success, it took you 15 years before you saw the height of your success. Yes, but you put in the work. Now millennials want success tomorrow. They want to have thought about a business today. They want a website today. They want to be making money today. And that's 1, 2, 3, and they want to be successful. They want it quick. And so that's the type of generation that we're looking at and that are coming up now. Is yes, there's the blessing of the advancement of everything, but then that's also a curse.
Wow. Wow, that's very powerful. I know that could be a topic just all by itself. But listen, as president of the Myles and Ruth Munroe Foundation and vice president of Munroe Global, and you're the president and CEO of Charisa Munroe's LLC. Now, are you able to blend your social work expertise into all of these organizations?
By all,
as you address.
By all means.
Go ahead.
By all means. And I think part of it is because, remember I told you, social work is the term that was given to my already innate passion and gifts. So naturally, yes. I'm someone that just loves people. I'm naturally someone that just loves serving and helping people. I'm naturally that person who, as soon as I see someone crying, as soon as I see someone who's less fortunate than me, my heart already melts. And so social work was just a term that I was able to find that did the best at coining what it is that I like to do. And so I'm able to take social work and take what I do and transcend it across the aspect or across borders of life. Doesn't matter whether I'm doing it from work at the hospital or whether I'm doing it from a stage or whether I'm doing just talking one-on-one or whether I'm in a classroom or whether I'm just in the trenches helping someone with whatever it is they're doing. Nonetheless, I can still do social work. Well, it's more at that point. It's no longer just doing social work. It's now Charissa is now fulfilling her purpose. And
wow, great. And, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Please continue.
After you.
No. I was just going to offer Brother Kente, if he wanted to ask the question, I want to offer him to do that as well. He's co-hosting with me tonight. If anyone else have any questions, feel free to ask. Put them in the box to the left, or you can ask the question. So if you have a question, please ask it. If not, we're going to keep moving.
Yeah, I do have a question. At times, even the Christians who are very devout may have a crisis of faith. Maybe they wonder where their place is in the world or whatever it is. And I was wondering, have you ever had any moments where you were very your Christianity maybe was tested to where you had to look within and really work?
My Christianity is tested every day. But it's interesting that you say Christianity, because now you're going to get me into a whole different topic, because as soon as I hear Christianity, I hear religion. And as soon as I hear religion, then I automatically think with my mindset, which is that of a kingdom mindset, which are two totally different things. And so, yes, my Christianity and my religion will be tested all the time. But as a kingdom citizen and someone who lives by totally different principles, yes, there's tests and trials, but the principles of the kingdom of God doesn't change. And so, to me, my Christianity is very linked to the human side of me. And I say the human side of me because there's a human part of me that when everything happened, I felt angry, I felt hurt, I felt pain, I felt sorrow, and I continue to feel that. But then there's a spirit side of me that knew better and that knew that God is a God of purpose and everything in life happens for a reason. And, God, He's the author and finisher of our faith. And so so there's that battle, and I had to believe that my spirit is stronger than my flesh. And so, yes, to say that if my Christianity is tested, yes, it is, and it always is. But again, I have a greater mindset and I have a greater understanding of my place in this whole picture. When you look at our place on earth as kingdom citizens taking care of this territory, that I'm not moved by what that may look like. And again, that has come with my ongoing connection with, my dad taught the kingdom from as far as I could remember. And so once you grasp that, then you no longer think religion. You no longer think religiously. You no longer think Christianity, because Christianity is going to say exactly that. Well, I don't feel like doing anything today. I don't feel like getting up there. I've been hurt. I've been damaged. Or they testing me, so I can pretty much react. No, as a kingdom citizen now, you have, yes, you don't feel like moving, but you still got a mandate to fulfill. Yes, they may have hurt you, but the Bible talks about those who persecute you. We ought to love them. I mean, we have all these principles that we're supposed to live by, and these laws that's different from someone who is just doing it traditionally.
Wow.
And it's your question, Mr. Lars, with the foundation. So the Myles and Ruth Munroe Foundation is exactly that. It's us extending the love that my parents had for people, and being able to serve people and the community. And so that runs in line with exactly who I am and what my brother and I enjoy doing. And so we started the foundation to do exactly that, to continue serving people through leadership, through education, the community. And then of course, once you start with the individual, then you eventually reach the world.
Excellent. Listen, you are just fantastic, and you're reading my mind because you segued right on into number 4. brother Munroe Jr., brother Charo. Yes. If we might call the brother by his, I think he prefers Charo, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it just
as of lately he's gone by both.
Okay, he goes by both.
He goes by both. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. Listen, please give him my regards. As a matter of fact, we had a little tete-a-tete, a friendly tete-a-tete, if you will, on Facebook the other day, just saying hello to one another. How you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. Okay. So please give him my regards. And I'd love to have him on the show. I would love to have Charo on the show as well.
Okay.
Now, of your many interests, which, if any one of them, demands the bulk of your attention? And I know you have many.
That demands, but you said that demands my attention.
The bulk of it, yes.
Serving others and making people happy demands a lot of my attention. And it's because I literally live by, if you're happy, I'm happy. If the people around me, my friends, my family, my patients, if they're happy, then I'm truly happy. And that actually demands a lot of me, because there's a piece to that if I'm not careful, then I would start to not take care of myself. And so there's a balancing act that needs to happen that demands a lot of my attention, because there's 95% of me that's not interested in me. I'm interested in making sure that everyone else is happy and everyone else is satisfied and have what they need, and then take care of me. So sometimes there's that. Okay, so sometimes I have to decide now. It's just take this little moment, take care of Charisa, whatever that looks like, and that can be working out, that can be going shopping, that can be visiting friends. I love to travel. Two things I love to do. I love to travel and I love to eat. Okay, which is why working out is very important. So the two must go hand in hand. So that's what I do, take care of me. But my greatest demand is my service to people.
Wow, that's. But you know what? If I may mix in another question with that, as you share about your greatest love is being serving people, and knowing the kind of person that you are, knowing the kind of person that your parents were and are, that and Kente asked a very impelling question as well. And I'd like to just ask you, when you are a person like Charisa, who has the unquestionable love for people, and you do everything that you are capable of doing, as far as you are aware, to assist those individuals in trying to make their lives better, but for some reason, they have no interest in trying to either receive you and or make your life better. Can you maybe share with us a little of that empowerment information, how to deal with that?
So give me the question again.
The question primarily is, if Kente is a very kind, warm person, and he is very interested in being kind and caring to others, but he does not get that back. Not that he's doing it to receive it. However, it would be nice to get it back sometimes. It's so I'll say it this way. It's difficult to help people understand that you don't do nice things or the right thing to do because you want to attaboy or you want a pat on the back. But it doesn't hurt for it to be reciprocated from time to time.
Okay, I see what you're asking.
Yes. Yes.
You know, look at Jesus, for instance. How many times have Jesus did something and he was persecuted, he was ridiculed, he was banned, he was stoned, he was beaten? I mean, everything that could happen to him. He was spat on, he was talked about, he was lied to. I mean, he did it all. But that didn't stop him from doing what he knew he was supposed to do on this earth. And so I think the best answer that I can give to that is none of that matters when you're focused on what you are supposed to be doing. Had he allowed that to matter, had he allowed people's reaction or response to him to matter, and he would have stopped doing what he would have done, he would have complained, he would have said, I'm not doing this anymore, he would have thrown in the towel, and then he would have never died for us. He would have never served us. And so sometimes I think we get so caught up, like you say, in the accolades and being famous and someone giving to me what I gave to them, versus I'm just here to show you some love. You don't have to take it. But one thing you are going to say is when you leave here, when I leave, you could be left saying, man, no matter how much I never gave it back to her, she always loved me. She always smiled. She always gave me a good word. And I wish I gave it back to her. That's on them. That's not on you.
Yes.
It's just like forgiveness.
Yes.
Forgiveness is not about them. Forgiveness is about you and making sure that you aren't stopping your blessing because you're holding a grudge. And so, you know, when I am the way I am, people, like I have some patients who, oh my gosh, I love my patients to death, but sometimes they can be a handful. And I can't go to work one morning. And say, you know what? I am not going to do this for Mary Sue because Mary Sue cursed me out yesterday. Like those are the type of patients I have. And I don't do that. I say, you know what? I'm here to serve them. I'm here to make sure they're satisfied. I'm here to provide some kind of service. And I'm going to do that regardless of who cursed me out and call me whatever name they could call me. And so that's how I am to my friends. You know, I have some friends who could never give me what I give them. By no means, but it doesn't change the love. It doesn't change my desire to do what I'm going to do to make them happy because I know that they're going to be happy. Notice I said to you, when they're happy, I'm happy. That means I'm doing something to make them happy. And as soon as I see a smile on their face, they've given me everything I can get. I need. And so that's why it's definitely an individual question. You know, what are you doing it for? And there are some people who are doing things for the attaboys. And well, you did it for me, so I did it for you. But I'm not one of them. And you know, and I think for me, I actually don't have that problem because I'm not so much materialistic, but I'm more time spent. I'm more words of admiration or words of gratitude. I'm more the things that you can't touch and hold, or I'm more of a hug. And so those are the things that people have no control over. So whether you give it back to me, I've already given it to you. Whether you choose to hug me back, it's okay, I've already hugged you. Versus, you know, if it's financial, okay, I gave you a couple of dollars, you can't give it back to me. Should I feel some type of way or should I not? Is it that important? Did I give it to you because I want you to give it to me in return with interest? So it just depends on where your heart is. Because it's your heart that matters as a servant.
Absolutely. If anybody have any questions, feel free to jump in because we're going to keep right on moving. Right on moving. No questions? Okay. Listen, just before we get to talk about your book a little bit here, other than your parents, who has had the biggest impact in your life?
Boy, that's a tough question. Because it's, you know, that's been the difficulty of this all. Is my parents have been the number one and the only next to God. And so since then, since they've left, it's been, I think next to my parents before them it would have been my grandmother even before that. And my grandmother played a very big part of my life from I was younger. From we were babies, my grandmother was there. And so she's the one that taught us our first scriptures in the home. And she's the one that, babysat us. So there are certain basic things that we learned that grandmother taught us. And then growing up, she was big on family values and making sure that your family is your number one. So one thing that she wanted us and the entire family to make sure that we stick together like glue and nothing else. And so we, as a family, we remember that this is what Grammy wants. So she wouldn't want us to be fighting against each other. She wouldn't want there to be disunity. She wouldn't want there to be lack of anything. If Uncle needs something, then you make sure if he needed from you, he should be able to come to you versus going outside of the family. And so even when my grandmother died, I don't know, 19 years ago now, 18 years ago, it was very hard for all of us because she was the glue. Like how my parents was the glue for this part of the family, she was the glue for all of us. And so she would have been probably the next best person that I can think about. But as far as anyone after my parents, it's been very difficult trying to figure that out. And
yeah, well, and let me say this to you very honestly. I figure there may be a difficult question because many times, even with myself, being an old guy, is that when people ask me that question, I find it sometimes very difficult to answer because you think you really start to process the impact that people have actually made on you. And many times that list gets very short. And so I just kind of want to ask that and have you share with the audience here. Listen, let's talk about this 31-day devotional book that you're coming called Empowerment for Everyday Living. Can you share some of that with us, please? Some of the idea that inspired you to write it, and whatever you're comfortable sharing, please share.
So that book came about because people were always asking me, since everything happened in 2014, how are you? That was always that question. How are you? How are you able to stand on stage and not cry? How are you able to still wake up in the morning? How are you able to, still accept invitations and speak? How are you able to still look as good as you do? How are you able, there was all these how are yous. And there really were responses to these questions. Like I was able to say, I can do this because I had this faith, or I can do this because I knew that I couldn't say no, or I knew that the importance of saying yes, or I knew that I had to start. Like I couldn't get stuck, or I couldn't sweat the small things. And I'm on all of these things I'm saying now are different days in the journal. And so someone then said to me, Charisa, why don't you put all of this in a book, in some kind of form, so that people can have it and actually glean from you and kind of read it and just have it in hand? Because they're asking you and you're helping them, but it'll be good for them to have. And so I said, oh, okay. I never imagined writing a book. But so in my mind for a long time, I looked at it as a very mini project. I always called it a mini project until the Lord had to deal with me and say, what's mini in your eyes, it's going to be major in mine. So I had to change the way I was responding and the way I was describing my own work. And so I sat down one day and I just kind of put everything together. And it's very short. It was very simple because I wasn't having any supernatural things that I do. I wasn't over the top and being just a superstitious fanatic. No, it was just simple things that I had to do and I had to learn over these last 4 years. And so and then there were scriptures that went with everything that I was doing. And so that's exactly what the 31-day devotional is. 31 days of behaviors and attitudes and mindsets that I took on after everything, coupled with a scripture that empowered me. And so, which is what has brought me from day to day since everything happened. So it was it's a book of empowerment, a book of hope, a book of purpose. And I just hope that, as people read through it, they get a quick moment of motivation that they would need to go on from one day to the next.
Oh, wow, that's great. Listen, that's the how Say that again. You were being asked to how
How
do,
are,
is that
how
how to
are
say
you?
that?
How are you able to?
How are you? The how are you? Wow, that's very compelling. That's very compelling. As I was listening to you share as to your reasons for writing that book, and the how are yous are very powerful. So with that, what is a typical day like for Charisa?
My days.
What, or maybe I should ask you, do you have typical days?
There you go. So I was gonna say there's no such thing as a typical day in my life because every day, every week, every weekend is different. But a typical day in general is going to include me going to work, whether I'm working my professional job or whether I'm doing my work for the kingdom or some kind of workout. And then I always try and do a good deed for someone. And that can be as simple as a phone call, that could be as simple as a visit or something. And so usually that's what it is. And even though that may just be 2 or 3 things, that literally there's not enough hours in my day to do just all of that. That my work, both of those, my work and my job, take up a lot of my time. And then there are some days when I decide to take a rest. And taking a rest means just take a step back and don't do any work for anybody else, but just kind of do what I want to do. And that's when travel comes in. That's when visiting friends comes in. That's when eating what I want to comes in, and that sort of thing. So I try to do a good balance to make sure that I'm not just overreaching in any particular way.
Wow. Well, listen, as a world traveler, and a woman that has shared with us that you love various cuisines and you love various parts of the world. Are there particular places, or is there a particular place that get your attention as far as visitation and the cuisine, or are they separate entities?
If anyone says Africa, I am present all the time. Africa is one of the best continents. South Africa is one of the best countries. African food is one of the best cuisines, period.
Wow.
But when it comes to cuisines, I am a ethnic type of food, so I prefer anything non-American. So from African food to Mediterranean to Parisian to Thai to Indian to Chinese, if I can find any non-American cuisine, I am on top of it. Yes, I love fine dining. I like the finer things in life, So
yes, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But South Africa is definitely on my bucket list. I was in Kenya. As a matter of fact, my African name, and see, you brought it out of me. Nobody knows that. My African name is Ni Kwame.
Kwame. Okay.
Yes. I went through the ritual in Ghana in 2012. I went through a 4-day ritual, and I tell you, it's the most impending thing that ever happened to me. I mean, it was nothing like I can explain. And actually, the middle name was Anan, by the way, Ni Anan Kwame. I'm sorry, I should have told the whole name. And being there with the elders, learning the history and that kind of thing, and I'll be quick. I'm a non-consumer of alcohol. That was the only thing that got me having to take these little sips. But wow, South Africa, that's one of my bucket list, and the cuisine. So listen, that's great. Do you plan to write any more publications?
I would like to, yes. There is a book that I need to get out. It's probably going to focus a little bit on what my journey has been through since November 2014.
Yes.
And that's going to be a major publication, and we'll see from there. But that one I'm working on.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's important.
That's the Andrea. Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. And have you decided on the title yet for that book?
I have not decided. Nothing has been finalized yet.
Okay. Can you give us a word of it as we get ready to close? Kente, you have any questions you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean,
as we get ready to close.
Since 2019, we just started 2019. was there any goals that you set for this year specifically that you're on your way to getting done?
So my goal, and I don't know if I should say this, but I would like to complete that book this year.
Okay.
And so that is one of my number one goals, is to complete that book this year. And then I do want to increase my speaking around the world. And so that actually is picking up very much so this year. My calendar is already looking, it's definitely more full this year than it was the years before. So God is definitely opening up some doors. And, it's just a matter of saying yes. And that's pretty much what's going to be the basis of the book is, me saying yes to him. And as soon as I said yes, what happened? So you have to get the book to find out.
Oh yeah, listen, we're going to get the book. Last thing, before we ask you to share with us how we may contact you, a little bit on empowerment. And I know you covered that earlier, and we have some people jumping on late. If you could just share with us just a little bit about empowerment, as I know that's a general question. I know there are so many pieces and so many layers, but just anything that you might share with us briefly just about your work as far as an empowerer, if I might say, use that term, and I don't use it loosely, because I know that you are an extreme empowerer. And if you can share just a little bit with us how you may share with our quote millennials. I don't believe in labeling, by the way. That's why I always do quotes. If you share with our millennials, just our audience as a whole, and then once you do that, we are going to ask you, please, to share with us how we may contact you. And you've been so gracious to hang on with all of the glitches, and we're just so grateful that you did that. So if you just give us a little bit about empowerment, if you don't mind. I know that it's a broad scope.
I'm going to liken it to a battery. I'm going to liken it to a battery. So a car battery is this big box that is full of power. And even sometimes that battery dies for whatever reason. And sometimes all it needs is a jump start. All it needs is someone to touch the positive and touch the negative and just give a little bit of their energy to this battery filled with power just to jumpstart it. And then it can go again. And so, sometimes with empowerment, what I like to do is sometimes people just need a jumpstart. They just need a reminder. They just needed someone to say, okay, come on, come go with me. They just needed someone said to keep going. It's not that people are powerless. People are filled with power. People are filled with authority. It's just that something somewhere along the line put a glitch in their system, in their journey, in their walk. And at that particular moment, they're down and out there still. And Charisa comes along and just reminds them, you got to get up. You got to start. You are not a failure. You are above. You are not beneath. Got to say no. Got to say yes. Take a rest. Be consistent. So those are just short empowerment phrases, but sometimes people just need that reminder. And so empowerment for me is just that. I don't need to give you any more power than you already have. You already have that. Sometimes it just needs to be reignited. And so that's what I want to do, is just have someone, because I would have wanted someone to do it to me. And so my book, for instance, does exactly that. It just reignites the power that people already have, therefore empowering them.
Wow. Thank you so very much. Listen, I do not want to be insulted nor greedy. As I said, you have been so gracious to come on and be with us, because I would be asking you questions until next week. So we certainly do not.
We can always do it again. And again, people can follow me on Facebook. They can follow me on Instagram. They can follow me on Twitter. And my handles for all three is Charisa Munroe and the number 1. And yes.
Charisa Munroe, number 1. I'm going to put that in the chat here. Charisa Munroe, number 1.
And that's CHARI1SAMUNROE 1. And I'm going to be rolling out. My other plan, to Kinte's question, my other plan for this year is to work on, complete, and launch my website. There's a soft launch, but I haven't done a major launch yet.
Okay. And wow.
I
Do you need a bodyguard?
I do.
You need somebody. You need somebody to travel with you.
Until I get a husband.
I am putting in my resume.
Until I get a husband, I sure do. You know, my dad used to always say that my mom was his bodyguard, because people always wondered why he never traveled with an entourage, why he didn't have bodyguards. And he said, no, if I have my wife on the side of me, no one is going to touch me. No one is going to fool with me. No one's going to say anything. And so he carried my mom, and she was his bodyguard. So, like I said, until I get a husband, yes.
Oh, well, hey, I am putting in my resume. I'm putting in my resume right now. Well, listen, we certainly want to thank you for being courteous enough and gracious enough to join us. And we certainly would love to have you back again. We want to obviously make sure that we work within your schedule. I know that you've already shared with us that your calendar is really, really full. And that's a good thing, because obviously as you get out there and you get those speaking engagements, do those things you're doing, I mean, they're just fabulous. And I want to encourage, while we have our listeners on here, I want to encourage them to just go to your YouTube channel. And since she's already given you information, Charisa Munroe 1, check out some of those broadcasts. They're very powerful and very impending. So we want to encourage you guys to do that. Brother Kente, if you share with us, please, how they can contact you, and then I'll shut this thing down.
Excuse me, you can get me on Twitter at Kente F. That's KINTEF. And Instagram, Kente Ferguson, my full name, FERGERSON. And of course, my website is indyradio.org. That's INDYradio.org. It was a pleasure to meet you. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but when you come back on, I'm sure that it'll be all hammered out.
Thank you very much. I too would like to apologize for all those technical difficulties. And as we close, we again want to offer and extend our condolences and prayers to you and Myles, Brother Charro, and the entire Munroe family and the entire Munroe followers. I am Melvin Lars, the Nobody Asked Me guy. I can be contacted at www.dyingonmyfeet.com. As some of you may or may not know, I have several books. One is called Dying on My Feet, My Journey ×2. I'm a 28-year survivor of acute promyelocytic leukemia. I'm also a poet. I'm a columnist, a weekly columnist for the Goodman Project. I just finished up another book that'll be debuting on Mother's Day called Mothers and Their Smen, an introspective view of mothers rearing their sons. Now, moms, we don't want you to get upset. The book works for mothers and their daughters as well. However, we want to highlight mothers and their smen because there's so much talk about that. So we want to thank each and every one of our listeners. We're glad that you were here, Shannon, and obviously Kente and Brother C. Will and Andrea and Free Farrell and some of the other guys that have jumped off. As the guys on this show know, we go all over the world on YouTube and on Facebook. So once we edit this segment, then it'll be out there for the world to view. So again, Charisa, we want to thank you very much for coming on and being with us. And I just need to know where to send my application.
Yes, sir. Good night, pleasure. Thank you very much. It's been an honor.
Thank you. Listen, we do appreciate you so very much, and you have a wonderful, wonderful night.
I will. You too. Have a good night. Nice to meet you, Kente.
Nice to meet you as well.
All right. Bye, Mr. Lars. Good evening.
Bye-bye, Charisa.